Real Talk. Special guest today, Kevin Kelsall, who's a martial artist, dog brother, and I recently found out the depth of your work, but stuntman as well. So, how long have you been dabbling in the stunt work?
Well, I think it will start just when I first got unionized in 2001. So 20 years.
Wow, a long time. And you started doing martial arts prior to that, correct?
Yeah, I started after football, after college, and I started probably around when I was 20.
And what did you initially? What was your first experience in martial arts? What did you start with?
Well, like martial arts as a kid and stuff, but I kind of don't really count that. And I've always been a kind of athlete. But I had a friend who I met when I was 20 years old. He was a Hapkido guy, and he was like a second Dan black belt, and smaller guy. And I was after playing football, I was like 250 pounds, almost 6 foot, and in really good shape. And here's this smaller guy who's like 5'3", 5'4", 110 pounds, and he was flipping me around. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. With the wrist locks and all that kind of stuff. And then I trained privately with him for I don't know, probably about a year and a half in my parents' basement. I bought all these remember the old tatamis, not the new ones, the old tatamis that actually had like hay and grass into them and stuff. And so I bought a whole bunch of those and tricked out all my parents' basement. And I was taking private lessons with him very regularly for about a year and a half. But I always thought there was something, Hapkido was a great art, but it really is an auto defense.
Yeah.
And when you start getting into the Jukundo stuff, there's no probing range, really. It's someone grabs you, and now you can Hapkido them. You know what I mean? And you even see, I can't remember, I think it's Young Suk Kim, the guy's name, or in Game of Death. Bruce Lee fights with him on one of the levels. It's and you see that, like, he's letting Bruce Lee grab his hand so that he can do his stuff to him. There's none of that probing range like the JKD kind of stuff has. And I was like, not feeling it anymore. I was like, man, how do you attack somebody? How do you, what's the next level? What's that other range, And I found the Tao of Jukundo, that book I'm sure that we all have. Yeah. And like, I started reading it and it blew my mind because of that whole aspect of looking at martial arts as bipedal combat. No style as a style, no way as a way, right? Styles are cultural, Japanese, Chinese, Brazilian, Korean. But because of our bipedalism, the human and physics and geometry, the human body only really moves one way. We all have to adhere to that, and I'm regurgitating stuff that Bruce Lee said. But
no, but it makes sense, right? It's truth.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, the truth is always going to sound the same because it is what it is. You know what I mean? So,
feelings.
Yeah. So that was a huge, my first big martial art epiphany. And I did a seminar with Ted Wong. He came to Montreal. This is probably 96-ish. And it was a weekend seminar, and there was guys that were there, like Bruce Lee. Some guys had, white guys or Asian guys had the Bruce Lee haircut and like the yellow and black jumpsuit. And we all weekend long, we basically, learned how to do the step and punch, back step and punch. And, the apex or the crescendo of that whole weekend was Pak Sao Lap Sao, which was big for me. But when I look back on it, I was like, man, we didn't really learn very much in like 16 hours, So I started looking for Jukundo in my area, and I found this thing called Pikiti Tercia. I couldn't even say it when I read it, the website. I'm like, man, like, what is this? And it was a guy named Philip Jelena. And so me and my friend who I played football with, and he had gotten a scholarship to go down south, we went and checked out the school. And we sat through like 3 classes. We sat through the JKD class. We sat through the Cali class. We sat through the Kajukenbo class. And we were like, all right, this is the place. So that's how I started getting it. And that I kind of consider, Hapkido was a good base. Taught me all my break falling, which I use in stunts. Like I use all the time. Like that break falling gave me a great foundation of how to fall, besides being like a football player and stuff. And yeah, but I really would say that like it all started kind of, it's called Gamma now, but when I first started going there, it was called the Philip Jelena Cultural Martial Arts Center.
Yes, I remember hearing that on one of the podcasts, or Tuhan and Son.
Yeah, exactly. So that, but it's such, if you think about that name, I think it was super cool because it goes back to everything I just said.
Correct.
Those are cultural, right? But then there's this whole, and like, going back, and I remember like, I could call Tuhan Phil or Sifu Phil, who I consider one of my, like, he's my conduit through all of this kind of stuff. I'm not going to take away from any other stuff because I did do a little bit of Muay Thai before with a guy named Patrick Giroux, but it was, it was good, but it was kind of not structured in what I was going for. It was very generic.
So you seem to be the type of person that starting investigating because you were looking for not just to do an art or like a hobby. It seemed to me like from the beginning the type of guy you were is you're looking for like how can I make the shit work for real? How can I actually apply this in real life?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a place. It's called Verdun. It's a blue collar, poor kind of area, and a lot of street fights and a lot of stupid stuff. And I unfortunately was privy to all that kind of stuff. A lot of street fighting and getting beat up and being bullied and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And you start, learning how to fight and do stuff just out of necessity.
Do you think that plays? Me personally, I believe so, but I think it makes a big difference when somebody, like you say, they get into shit depending on where they live or circumstance. But when they actually have to fight, even before they know how to fight, whether it's actually giving the beating or taking the beating. But I find that when people actually go through that and then learn martial arts, they have a real reference point of what violence is or what fighting is. So they therefore when they start learning stuff, they can kind of filter through the bullshit a lot faster than most.
Yeah, well, like violence isn't always bad. Okay, and that's the whole thing. Like we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but like being bullied, yeah, it sucks. And should there be bullies? No. Is there? Yes. So my dad was the kind of dad that, okay, so what? There's four of them. Go get, and like this is going to sound fucked up, but go get a stick.
Yeah.
Go don't just, because I got my ass kicked till I was 13. Like, and it was never one-on-one. I don't know how many memories I have of seeing my 18 lunchbox getting kicked down the alley while I'm getting punched in the stomach and like crying and begging for my mommy to, and they don't stop, and being a kind of, I'm not that big of a guy, but I was a little bit bigger than some of the kids then. Maybe I developed earlier, but like I was a nice kid, you know what I mean? But then after you start to go like, okay, I'm going to hit first. I'm going to tackle them and ground and pound them. You know what I mean? Before ground and pound was a thing, we all saw it in schoolyards. That's how it was, That's how kids fight. That's how the human body ends up getting there because of physics, right? So, so yeah, you're right. You end up filtering through the bullshit because you're like, I don't ever want to do that. I don't want to do that kind of move. I don't see, you know what I mean? Or you try something and it doesn't work and you're like, okay. So what I do now, and I guess I'm an instructor now, I'm getting to that level. I always tell people all martial arts is a lie. You want to know why? Because if your student comes into your place, you go, okay, you take that hand and you punch me here.
Yeah.
How many altercations of violence where you, attack me from my good side? No, with that hand, that leg. It happens. And if you have time to think about it, it's already too late.
Yeah.
So you have to, but that's not a bad thing. It's a paradox. You got to start somewhere. So you have to train the lie to get to the truth.
I like that line.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to, and I think it's negligent. There's too many places that give black belts to 16-year-olds. Not that it's not impossible, but it's probably improbable that they are a black belt at 16. I'm sure there's the exception, but just because you're buying the belts and putting on the patches and making your payments, it doesn't mean you. Anyway, so the thing is, I think it could be negligent if you have people coming in and training with you and you tell them, okay, this is going to work 100%. I've never seen a technique at the level that I'm at, my truth, I've never seen a technique that works 100% of the time. There's no like silver bullet.
No, there can't
There's
be.
some that have a high probability of working.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's some that have a very low probability of working, but some guys can make them work. So, I think that's the responsible way to go with this whole kind of martial art thing, and when I first started getting into martial arts when I was like in my 20s, I was like, I jokingly say I was like a born again Christian. You know those people that become Bible thumpers? It's all about martial arts. That's all I was doing. Like martial arts was going to save the world, And
Those
I,
are good times.
yeah, exactly. I was telling people, like you have a responsibility to feed your body, to clean your body. You have a responsibility to defend your body. You know
100%.
what I mean? And here's another kind of paradox of martial arts. In the beginning, it's an external battle. You don't want to get beat up. You're afraid. You want to protect yourself. But ultimately, it turns into this internal battle. Why do you do martial arts in a time of peace?
To prepare for a time of war.
Yeah, but you hope it never comes. But at the same time, you're having that internal battle with yourself, keeping yourself honest. Like that's another kind of thing where the only way to get good at martial arts, like if you can't do a round kick and you're not flexible. Okay, so what's the truth? You got to stretch. You got to practice.
That's something I remember, and it's making sense to me of late. But I remember hearing Guru Dan say that once. He's like, "You guys got to check yourselves. It's like every 10 years, your body's going to be different. You're not going to be as fast or flexible. You got to recalibrate. What was true back then is not going to be true now. Truth is fixed in time." And I remember when he said that, I was just like, "Fuck, man! It's you think about it, it's like that's such a fucking simple concept,
Yep.
but really, people spend a lot of time trying to hide that, right?" And
Yep.
and I think that's people more than now. Right now, with the shit that's going on, people are stuck at home, can't get to the gym or can't do this or can't do that. That's the biggest battle they're having internally right now. Why train now? People are finding the reasons because they identify themselves with the gym they're with or the
Yep.
art they do, but not who they really are or the why.
And that's the thing too, like that like ancient traditional kind of way of martial arts. You could be alone under a waterfall, standing on some rocks, hitting a tree, all that kind of romantic kind of stuff. But there is a social aspect to it, and that's one of the things. Like Philip Jolene has been a conduit for me to have access to people like Guru Dan and like Grand Tuan Leo Gahe and all these kind of guys, and like it's kind of cool because of the truths that they talk about. They're universal truths, like that whole thing. Like when you're 20, you train a certain way. When you're 30, you train a certain way. When you're 40, you train a certain way. And you have to, that's that internal battle of putting your ego in check, right?
Yep.
And changing your game plan. Because, if we put it in the context of being a village and very kind of tribal kind of thing, we're getting attacked by another tribe. Everyone's got to fight, even the old, you know what I mean? Even the old people, even the young people. So, just because you're 80 years old, look at those guys, man. Look at Guru Dan and look at Phil and look at all these other guys. Amazing. They never stop.
Yeah. I mean, I've trained with Tuan Phil a few times, and every time he comes to combat, I'm there. And I've gone to Gamma, the older one, and the one he's at now.
Yeah.
And there's just a different vibe about them. They're not the kind of guy to puff their chest. They're just normal human beings. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's, to me, the authenticity of like, yeah, I know this, but what does that matter? And what matters is I'm a good person. That keeping that in check, that's a very important quality. And I think is needed a lot more, especially today.
Yeah. And like, that whole, their humbleness at times is like daunting because you see it and you're like, wow, they're not acting like they're special. They're not acting like they deserve any kind of extra special accolades or any kind of other things. And look at the, the work that they've done. Look at the legacy they're leaving behind. And like you said, they're just regular dudes. They still have to, I was amazed that like, Guru Dan, who's like, globally known, Phil, Tuhan Phil is globally known and all that kind of stuff. But like this pedigree that Guru Dan has, you would think that he'd be driving around in a Mercedes and have a big mansion. But you go to his place, they're normal dudes. They're normal guys. You know what I mean? And like yeah, they're able to pay their bills and live this lifestyle as a martial artist. There's a lot of different, there's a wide spectrum how you can do it, but they're not like, I've seen some styles and some martial arts schools where, the guys are driving Mercedes and they got the big school and they got all the kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's different. You know what I mean? And there's some other guys that are really kind of like, their gym, it costs $5,000 a month to keep it open. And they're always maybe just making it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like month to month, and sometimes they have good months. Okay, wow, we're good for a month or two, but then they know that the struggle is going to happen again. You know what I mean? So it's not a life of becoming a millionaire or fancy. You know what I mean? It's not that. You got to do because you love it. It's a way. You know what I mean? Like it's in your bones. It's in your. It's just it's who you are. You know what I mean?
And that's, I think, something that it. You can't really see that or understand it until you're in the actual gym and interact with the people there. Like, you can go to a gym and you can see it's, I've been to gyms and I can feel it's like a business.
Yeah.
It's like a mill.
Yeah.
Payout, and then there's the gyms that aren't. And there's guys, like I said, there's guys like Tuhan, like Guru Dan, like a whole bunch of good, instructors that I've had the privilege of being around. They all have that commonality. And I think the thing is they're not, but those guys there, it's like you say, it's because they love it. You're not doing it to get rich. If you get rich, that's great. But what their real focus and their real goal is preservation of the art, and what they give back to their brothers, to the to everybody else.
Yeah,
like the way they're helping Professor Salim right now. That's a family.
Yeah,
when people care about you like that, and that's the good of the art. So, why do you think this is something that this kind of pedigree has held on to? What's the difference between that kind of mentality of preservation of the art and the watered down make a McDojo franchise? Where do you think that balance lies on being a successful martial artist or instructor, but also keeping true to what it's really for?
Yeah, that's when I was younger, I used to really judge the McDojo kind of thing, and as I got older and started to go to some of them and whatever, you know what I mean, and just see different perspectives, I started to say, it depends on your students, man. Some people want to get dressed every Tuesday and Thursday, put on their little suit, put on a little belt, go roll on the ground, punch and kick, do a couple of things, talk to people, hang out, have a little bit of a community experience, and they'll go home. They're never going in the cage. They're not, you know what I mean? But at least they're not at home sitting on the couch.
That's true.
You know what I mean? They're in the community, they're doing something, they have a passion. So, that could be a huge part of a school's body, right? And then you have, 5-10% of like guys that are like, whoa, this is like, this is the ancient way. This is a warrior I got here. You know what I mean? Male or female. This is a warrior spirit. This person is, so you got to cater to that too, but you're not gonna train that person. You could push to, okay, now we're gonna make your knuckles bleed a bit. Maybe we're gonna we're gonna go do some body conditioning. Some people, I did Kajikembo for a little while, and it's an art that I hold very close to my heart. That body conditioning that we did with Tuan Phil and the Kaju stuff, that really prepared me for stunt work. Like, you're crying, like not crying, like crying, but there's tears coming out your eyes. And you're pushing that boundary of pain threshold. You're taking the body to a level. It's like, it's almost the same like when you're lifting and you start lifting really heavy. You got to push through those walls. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff, but you can't do that with every student. You're going to have some students that come in there and you can't take them to that, you can't take them to that pool to go swim in. And that's fine. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just,
no.
You know what I mean? They ain't going swimming there.
No, so, some people have a certain objective. So
yeah,
but I guess what I meant to say, let me rephrase it, is like you say, yes, you're gonna have your athletes, you're gonna have your competitors, you're gonna have people who just want to fucking exercise and feel good about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is when I say McDojo, I'm referencing to those gyms that they're not really focused on giving you information that can, it's just like they just want you to pay a fee and give you a colored belt. Like you could not be in shape. You could, and I've seen that before. I've been in schools like that and I had to leave. Like those schools I feel do a tremendous injustice, because I think it breeds a culture of, everybody's a winner. Here's your trophy. And you're gonna be able to defend yourself. Like this is the fucking problem for me.
That's fucking negligence, dude. Now, how special is it to teach someone? You know what's really fucking cool as a martial art teacher or teaching martial arts or whatever? Taking someone who's not a warrior, who's afraid, who's this, and now they can fight for their lunch. They're no longer an easy win.
Yeah, man.
Well, how that's like a beautiful thing to give that gift to somebody. They're not going in the cage. They're not going to UFC. They're just not going to be a pushover no more. They're no longer an easy win. You know what I mean? They're going to stand their ground. That's a beautiful thing to give to a human being, man.
Yeah, that for me is what to be able to give that to a kid or a person.
Yeah,
that's what a black belt is, man. Because now you have the tools to go through life and not be afraid to be yourself or speak your mind. You know what I mean?
And that's a beautiful thing. Now, if we go back to what you had just said, that other thing could be super negligent, dude. You know what I mean? Like you're giving people a false sense of hope. And, these are people like, stand back, I'm a black belt. Well, man, you shouldn't, these are things that, the best, there's one of the best application of any technique is surprise.
Yeah.
I always have this joke where I say, how Guru Dan says, like, there's the 7 S's: speed, stamina, surprise. That supersedes all of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Ambush, right? Because all of those attributes are amazing. But what happens when you're surprised? You know what I mean? So
you're in a negative.
Right. And so that's where that's where your metal gets really tested, right? Because can you adapt? Can you overcome? Can you take that? Can you get blindsided and still, turn that around, take that mess and make it into something? You know what I mean? Where you survive. Because it's, it's different when you have two martial artists and they respect each other. Okay, let's fight. Now they're going hard. You have someone who's trained just as good as you, just as fast, just as strong, or faster or stronger, whatever, and you're going at it. That's a thing. That's something. But in the self-defense technique of someone, or the self-defense world of someone being ambushed or attacked on the street, that's the most dangerous thing in the world for us. Unless you're like, on a battlefield in war or something in that context. But we've all been there fighting over a parking spot, or two guys in the bar and they're standing this close to their nose. What? I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Like, me, you come that close, it's a kiss or a punch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you either coming in for a kiss or are you coming in for a punch? That standing nose to nose shit, like, so that ain't no surprise. That's no ambush stuff. This is like, chest puffing.
Yeah.
Pissing contest shit, which is another animal. But being ambushed or being surprised, that's very dangerous for somebody, and
I was attacked once, and I'm telling you, it is a shock.
Yeah.
I kicked in my back. I fell forward. My head hit the skirt of a car, and my reflex was just fucking protect.
Yeah.
And it took, and I don't know how many shots I took before I actually realized what the fuck was even happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand what that feels like, that disorientation, that shock, that everything feels slow but fast at the same time. It's a very hard thing to deal with.
It's funny. I've been there, unfortunately, more times than I'd like to admit. But it's funny when you're getting hit like that, eh? It doesn't even feel like getting hit. It just kind of feels like the kind of.
It's like an echoing of a heartbeat in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And you just got to batten the hatches and ride out the storm until you can make sense of it all. So anyways, to get back to that whole thing of the McDojo kind of thing, they're always going to have that. I think it's always been around. I think, you can't control everything and you can't control everybody. So it's a good thing that, like, you got to be who you got to be, right? And you teach how you think you should, you teach how you wanted to be taught or how you were taught, and you try to be honest with people, and hopefully they, at the end of the day, you can't jump in somebody's skin and do it. They got to do it for themselves, right?
100%. That's a very important point. Unfortunately, these schools or businesses or sports teams that adopt that kind of mentality, though, unfortunately, are weakening the youth and their ability to overcome and challenge themselves, which in turn, has effects on them later on in their life as adults.
Yeah.
Which brings us to, like, certain situations you see now. People can't hear this; they get offended. They need a safe room. They need, like, this. I'm not afraid to speak what I think, but personally, I think it's a fucking mess, And I think these traits you learn in martial arts. I don't say you just learn them in martial arts. I say that because I learned them through martial arts.
I hear you. Me too.
But these things, I think they need to be valued more and they need to be taught more. And now it's harder, more difficult than ever because if you try to, like, I try to teach certain things to my kids now, and some people are gonna frown at me about, like, I don't really give a fuck what you think. I'm gonna teach my kid what I believe, and when they're older, they can decide what they believe. But for right now, it's my job to instill them some real shit because I'm not going to protect them. I need to protect them, but I need to let them fall. That's how
exactly. Well, look, what's the worst thing that can happen to a fighter? Win all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because his first loss, if he's able to weather it and recalibrate, amazing. But a lot of times that destroys. Look at professional athletes and professional teams. They go on a winning streak, they lose, and they're crushed. So one of the questions you had is about failure and stuff.
Yeah, how do you overcome that failure or traumatization?
Well, I like to rebrand it, redefine it. It's like Mark Denny from the Dog Brothers, and I don't think he exclusively. He's not probably the only person who says this, but I like that. How we have a strong side and a weak side. They'll say that in martial arts or even in sports teams. I like strong side, complementary side, right? So you don't have no weak side. It's a complementary side. And from the JKD, I've always, and even with Cali, it's so much like this. You do 10 on the left, you do 10 on the right. So you're always trying to, we're going to have one side stronger than the other, but you're trying to,
calibrate.
Yeah, and you're trying to equalize your left or your right because you never know where you're going to get it from, right? So when it comes to failure, I like to redefine it as, I didn't succeed at that. I gotta take, because everything is a learning experience. And when I look back at my life, it's funny, the questions I've been reading, and in preparation for this, I've kind of been reevaluating or just looking back at my life for a second. And every time when I was younger and I thought someone screwed me over or someone blocked me or someone talked some shit about me or fucked me over or whatever, I look back at it and I honestly can see, without being too negative, it was always my fault anyways in the end. There was something somewhere I could have did to overcome it, to go left, to go right, to just be better. And so when I honestly look back at it, I was like, fuck, man, you know what? No one ever really stopped me except me. You know what I mean? So
that's an important truth, man.
It is. And I'm sure it's true for everybody in their own way. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So how do I deal with those failures? You got to take them and you got to, roll with them. I look at a lot of the time I can say wasted, but it's a negative way. But because one of the things with my martial art training is I've known Phil for over 20 years, and because of the stunt stuff and other things, my training's been very peaks and valleys. Right? I'm not on a show. I go and I train like crazy for 3 months. Then I get on a show. I don't see him for 6 months. I'm still training and doing stuff, but I'm not at the source. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and there's been things that he's shown me 10 times and I've forgotten 11. Especially with the Bikini stuff. It's such a vast.
Yeah, it's intricate, man.
It's such a vast, the knowledge and the drills and all these other things. It's like, man. And the Jukundo, the Jun Fan stuff, that's good. I kind of got that stuff down. And I love how Guru Dan brings you to a certain place and then you got to make it your own, right? whether you go into like the CS, like if you go into some like wrestling, or you go into jiu-jitsu, or you go into weapons, or or if you're really into taekwondo or Muay Thai or any of that kind of stuff, your kicking is going to be real strong. So you start to tailor make it for yourself, right? And then a good teacher of understanding of that whole Jukundo thing is going to have students that, okay, look at his body type, look at his attitude, look at, he's aggressive, he's not aggressive. This is now changes the same application, like something as simple as a Pak Sao. You can be very aggressive with a Pak Sao and just eat up real estate, blah, 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 coming in, or that could be a total counter thing, and you could be like leaving with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That depends on someone's personality. Are they going to come in hard, or do they want to just keep their distance and don't want too much trouble, but they want to, so I think, when it comes to this whole kind of martial art thing, a big thing with it is, that's what I love, the thing about the Jukundo thing. I hate the word invention. I don't believe anybody really invents anything. And I'm regurgitating a lot of stuff that Guru Dan says too. Everything's already been done before.
Discovery. It is.
Yeah, I don't think Bruce Lee invented shit. He discovered the Jukundo thing, which to my understanding, is probably a real ancient way of doing martial arts. You know what I mean? Like
they say, adding in all those arts and stuff like that, that's coming from the pancration time. But what he did, I think, was he just cataloged his understanding.
Yeah.
And really it brought it, because of his personality and his work ethic, he just shined a light on something that people weren't paying attention to.
Yeah, and I don't think he had the boundaries in his mind.
No.
You know what I mean? He wasn't like traditionally locked into, I'm Japanese, I'm Korean, I'm Chinese. He was, a modern guy in that sense, and because of that, he just flowed between whatever he wanted to do,
I think that's why it was so powerful, man. Like for me, I'll be honest with you, I could give a shit about the Bruce Lee movies. I thought they were dubbed. It wasn't for me as a kid. I had access to better. However, I'd fast forward to the fight scenes.
Yeah.
What attracted me to Bruce Lee was I just thought it was so powerful that, like you said, he wasn't, he was quarter German, born in the States, raised in China. He was already an amalgamation of everything around him. And the thing that made it so powerful was three things. Number one, he was a curious mind, and he didn't, like you say, he didn't hold barriers for himself. He just wanted to see and sample and experience and live. Exactly. That's a very, very important personality trait to have. Number two, he didn't hold any emotional he didn't attachment to any one thing. If somebody says, like these guys, like I love Wing Chun. I went train Wing Chun specifically to fix up my JKD, because I started JKD first. I wanted to go to the root.
Yeah.
One thing I found about Wing Chun guys is they're so fucking defensive, or
Yeah.
And it's
they're proud about Wing Chun. Yeah.
Be proud. Don't not be proud. But guys, this isn't the cat's meow. There's other shit outside here. You're learning Wing Chun to fight against a Wing Chun guy. Can you do Wing Chun against the fucking collegiate wrestler?
Yeah.
I don't know. You might have to change that a little bit.
Exactly.
But the point is like, if you said something about Wing Chun, they would fucking get angry. Like, you didn't invent it. Relax. You don't have to defend it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Bruce wasn't like that. He was just like, it is what it. He was objectively looking for truths. Had nothing to do with him.
Yeah, he bastardized it. You know what I mean, or whatever. But
he made it his own.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters, right? Because it's his. And not like and the other thing is once he discovered something that he believed in.
Yeah,
he didn't give a shit who you were.
He integrated. It worked. It was in.
That's it.
Yeah.
And those are character traits that I think anybody can use in anything that they do, right?
Yeah.
You gotta do the research. You gotta know what it feels like for you, what it's like for you, and then you can't be afraid to fucking this is how I do it. So what? It's not traditional. It's not the way you want me to do it. I'm not here for you.
Yeah.
And that kind of emotional resiliency and a bit of pride, and and just not being afraid to do that, to explore and put yourself out there. Like that for me was what made me like, fuck, this is somebody I look up to. This is somebody I want to. This is something worth investigating because those traits, right?
Hey, dude, is that a picture of you with Francis Fong?
Yeah, man.
I
friends
want
with,
to train with him. I love his. I love his. That's some good Wing Chun there, man. That's the.
and it's the best I've seen, man. Like I'm certified in, not that that matters, but my instructor in Jeet Kune Do is Kevin Seaman. That's who I'm under. But I've trained under also Joey, Sifu Joy at Combat. But yeah, so I was training with Kevin Seaman, and which is a great instructor, and he told me, he's like, "Yeah, I got Sifu Francis Fong coming. You got to come check him out." And
Yeah.
and man,
Yeah.
fucking hell, like this guy. You know what I love about him is he knows the art so well,
Yeah.
but his ability to like use it in everything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He goes the four ranges, right? He's
It's
not stuck in that kind of.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But what really impressed me about him was his understanding of body mechanics and structure,
Yeah.
like in everything. Like some of the stuff he did was like, it seemed like a parlor trick. I was like, no, fuck, I got to try this. Because I don't care if this guy stands over here and pushes on your arm. I don't fucking believe that guy. That could be your buddy from 2 years ago. Let me try. And yeah, man, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. It says it's a different level, right?
Yeah.
But he's so enthusiastic, and he just exudes a love for it, right?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I wanted to go. COVID hit. I was planning to go and hit a whole bunch of seminars, but yeah. Okay, so that's cool. So yeah. So anyway, so I guess you were saying with the Bruce Lee thing. What was the third part of his personality you said?
Well, that's what I said. It was the characteristic of like standing by his discovery, right? It was the willing to speak up and speak his truth, not being afraid, not ruffling feathers, fighting for the right to teach. It was that belief in himself and not afraid of what the consequence may come because he stood by what he believed in. That's a very admirable and honorable thing. A lot of people don't have that, right? I think right now with this whole COVID shit, I don't know, not to bring it up, but it's fucking there. It's in everybody's face.
I know.
Worse. A lot of people don't want to wear masks, don't believe it's this, don't believe it's that, but they're too fucking scared to speak their truth. Why? Because everyone's fucking been conditioned to just like a mob attack if you don't believe what the consensus is.
I know, dude. I don't really want to touch on that too much, but I think we're probably in the same headspace about all of that shit. And it's so fucked up, all that kind of stuff. We have some people that are really afraid, and I don't want to. I'm trying to facilitate everyone that's afraid. You know what I mean? Like their fears are valid because that's what they're feeling. And to live afraid is not a good way to live, though.
No, you're not living. You're just existing.
So I'm trying to help with that. Stay positive, shoot out some positive vibes. I'm hoping positive stuff's going to happen. That's it. I'm not a big fan of vaccines. I've never gotten really, like flu shots or any of that kind of stuff. I think it's really good for the human body to, you're battle fit. You got to have an immune system that's ready to go. You know what I mean? And the only way to strengthen your immune system is to be exposed to stuff. So, it's, I'm interested to see what history is going to say about this time.
Yeah.
So getting back to the martial art thing, how do we go forward and teach and do all this kind of stuff? I'm personally, I haven't worked very much. My industry, like the stunt industry, it's picking up. Toronto's really busy. Vancouver is really busy. Montreal is slowly picking up speed. But I've been going through this whole redefining myself too. Like, wow, what if I can't do stunts anymore after 20 years? You know what I mean? Is my career just, because I'm 45 now, so I can still hit the deck. I can still, get smashed around and stuff. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been doing more fight coordinating or stunt coordinating, and it's a different kind of animal. You're no longer on camera; you're behind camera. It's kind of like being a hockey dad. You know what I mean? Because you get all these great athletes and you get them going, and you're out there and you kind of live vicariously through them, right? And hoping that the fight's going to come good, work out good, and they're going to, and they're going to give us enough time to shoot it all and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's a different animal. It's still fun. I love it. I love performing also still. But with the whole kind of like COVID world stuff happening and putting the brakes to a lot of things, you start to redefine your stuff. Like, okay, what do I do then if that doesn't happen anymore?
Right.
So I think it falls back on, teaching martial arts. I have some other things that I've been doing. I live on a farm, so we have 6 horses, and I'm finishing off my Kwan or my dojo on the second floor of my barn. It's coming, and so I'm lucky. I live on a farm, man. Honestly, I don't even feel like COVID. I'm walking around like
self-sufficient.
normal. Like I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't watch the news too much. I don't want to get vibed out. But so there's that whole different thing going. I hope our industry is going to open back up for me in Montreal, and I'll see. Like I said, I'm redefining myself, recalibrating, and seeing, what's that going to bring. I don't know.
Let me backtrack a little bit, and can you let me know? Like, I've been interested in doing it, but it was never like something that was like I had the drive to actually pursue. I've been involved in a small shit here and there, but how did it fall into your lap? How did you get into the stunt work? What attracted you to doing that?
Okay, so like the joke is like I fell into it, but I'm pumped, right? So growing up in Verdun, doing martial arts, being an athlete, being an avid fan of film, and like, just my mom worked in a video store, VHS video store, when I was a kid. And like, I watched every movie in that place twice. Because I used to go in and pull and I didn't like, my mom worked there. So I would go in with a bag of 6 movies and walk out, watch them in 2-3 days and come back. And,
that's dope.
Yeah. So that's how I got exposed to that kind of thing. And once I started getting into the martial arts stuff, I had a weird little dream in my head of like, yeah, I'd love to be an action hero. You know what I mean? You have this, but growing up in Verdun, if I would have said that to anybody, I would have got laughed. Like I would have got laughed off the, everyone would have laughed at me like, fuck you. You're never going to do that. So I saw this movie called Hawk's Vengeance that was filmed in Montreal with Gary Daniels. Remember Gary Daniels?
Okay.
And Philip Jelena actually played in it. Philip Jelena and one of his
no way.
Named Norm. Yeah. They were fencing masks like we were in the Dog Brother thing, and they had this cool fight against Kaz Magda. Right. And me and my buddy watching, I'm like, holy fuck, that's awesome shit, man. And then we're like, that's filmed in Montreal? What? That's filmed in Montreal? Like, so that was like a first time that I had a little glimpse of like, maybe this shit possible, but don't say anything, Kev. Keep it a secret. You know what I mean? Like, so I had that in the back of my head. In college, I took communications, creative arts. So I took like the cinema videography 1 and 2. I took photo, I took drawing, I took theater workshop, mask, all these other things while I was playing football. So I was already in there. Like I made a couple little small movies in college, like, 3-minute, 5-minute kind of things for projects for class. So I kind of was already doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it was already in the stars a little bit, whether I was like, I wasn't going at it full force, but I was always attracted to that stuff anyways. And I had a good friend of mine who was really into acting and was very serious about it. And he got into Concordia, and he met a guy whose name was Jason Cavalier, who is a Concordia guy. He's a stunt guy and an actor. He's actually working in Toronto right now on Jack Reacher. And he was giving classes out of his loft, stage combat stuff. And I'd already done a couple of stage combat classes with a guy named Jean-François Gagnon. And it was kind of cool, but it was theater stuff. They do these things called naps, like it's these fake, you punch and you slap, you're, doing this weird kind of shit. It's good on stage, but doesn't really work on camera. It doesn't translate to film. And I was like, yeah, I like it, but not really. And my buddy started going to this guy's place, and he was like, Kev, you got to come meet these guys. You're going to love this. And after some reservation, I'm like, I don't know. And I went, and I really liked it. Those guys thought I was pretty cool. they were like, "Hey, man, if movies ever come along, you think you'd want to do stunts?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was working down on the harbor, the port of Montreal. My family is like, we're like third generation stevedores. So like my great uncle, my dad, all my uncles, and me. And I worked down on the port of Montreal for like 10 years. And while I was like going in and out of college and doing martial arts, and there was this TV show called Largo Winch. A guy named Mark Desordi was the stunt coordinator for the show. They used every stunt person in Montreal. And my buddy got on the show, and he's like, "Fuck, I'm looking for some other guys. I need a guy who can do some acting and throw some kicks and fight." And my buddy, whose name is Patrick Sabungi, was like, "Oh, you should call my friend Kevin." And he's like, "Who's this guy, Kevin?" And he went and asked Jason Cavalier about me, and Jason Cavalier vouched for me. So I had like two guys saying called me. I went, did a little interview with him, threw a couple kicks. I was able to do a kind of a weird backflip, like a macaco from capoeira. I popped off one of those. And all right, cool. You start in 2 weeks. So my first credits was a stunt actor thing. So I got my first couple of credits on the show Largo Winch, and then he liked me and he hired me 2 weeks after again. Then radio silence for almost 6 months, and then I got on the show Timeline. And so I was 20. How old was I? 25, and I auditioned after. It's so weird. I just did a Dan Inosanto seminar probably about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks before this audition.
Yeah.
And I wore a Dan Inosanto t-shirt to this audition. We call it a cattle call. And I didn't know that there had been like 250 whatever stunt guys that already auditioned, and they already kind of had picked most of the guys for their core team. And I showed up on the last day because I got called with a whole bunch of guys from Toronto, a whole bunch of stunt coordinators from there's stunt coordinators right now in Toronto. All these guys, Randy Butcher, Eric Bryson, Leighton Morrison, whole bunch of guys. So I walked in with them, and the guy's there. His name was Tom DuPont, who was the fight coordinator for the show. And I'm wearing a Dan Inosanto shirt. And he's like, "Dan Inosanto?" Well, I was like, "Yeah, I did a seminar a couple of weeks ago. You know how jazzed you are after you do like a cool seminar? I think I wore that shirt like every day or every other day, you know." And so he's like, "Okay, you're my assistant." I'm like, "Huh?" So I all of a sudden was his assistant for the day, auditioning the guys. And at the end of the day, I left. And this is like before cell phones. I had a pager. I'm driving home and my pager goes off. I pull into the gas station, call him. "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Oh, I hope you're not busy this summer." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, you're going to be utility stunt." I'm like, "What's utility stunt?" "Well, you're on this show all summer long." So that was
Awesome.
a great experience for me. You know what I mean? At 25, and working with all the, real guys from Montreal, all the original stunt guys and stunt coordinators from Montreal, and then a whole bunch of other stunt coordinators and guys from Toronto, and so it was a really good experience for me, and that's how I got the bug, dude. I was like, I'm hooked.
So what was the biggest role you've done you're not biggest, but your favorite role or most nerve-wracking stunt you've done throughout your whole career?
Now, I have to be honest. It sucks to say this, but I haven't done very many big stunts, and I'm more of a fight guy. And if we're talking about, going back to failures and whatever regrets or how I would have done certain things over, after that movie Timeline, I was 25. I made like 74 grand, and I had no wife, no kids, I went to LA to go and train at Dan Inosanto's at Guru Dan's place. That's when it was in before it was in Marina Del Rey. It was another place in Huntington Beach. And I went there. School was closed. They were moving it. I was like, "Fuck." And but what I would have done is because a lot of back then in Montreal, I called all the guys, all the stunt coordinators. I'm like, "How much to take out your airbag? How much to do Firebird? How much to teach me this? How much to?" And they weren't really training stunt people back then, and it's just something that I wish I would have not listened to certain people back then telling me, "Don't do that. They're never going to hire you." If you do that, people are gonna say you're intimidated. They're intimidated by this, and they're not gonna hire you. They're gonna think, like just listening to all of those people, kind of like people that were in the middle of success, let's say, and being young, I should have just said fuck it and took my money and went and did all of these awesome courses and did all of these things instead of being afraid. This is, and listening to people that were afraid, selling me on fear of, oh, don't do that. It's better just, don't rock the boat too much. You're gonna get your chance. You gotta wait out. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. And because of that, I think I missed a couple opportunities. I did jump into the airbag. I've trained to do it. I've never been hired to do a high fall. I've never been hit by a car, although me and my buddy practice it. I've done fire. I've done a whole bunch of being on fire. Fire's kind of dangerous, but it's more of a magic trick. It's all about preparation. You know what I mean? And if you have the right crew around you, shit can go wrong. There's always the X factor. You can plan everything, and accident, shit happens still. So I haven't, done crazy stunts, but so I have such a respect for the craft of being a stuntman. Okay, and it's a wide spectrum, dude. There's from aerial stunts to motorcycle stunts to the mechanical to physical to it's such a wide spectrum. Very few are good at everything. And when I mean very few, I mean like 1% is good at every, there's like a 1 to 5% of stunt people that are good at almost everything, but most people specialize.
So speak to me about this industry, because the way you're explaining it, man, like you're putting your body in jeopardy. You have to be working with people you trust. How do you build that communication with those people that essentially have a stake in your well-being?
Well, that's the thing. That's why most people, okay, I've had a couple of bad things happen, and it's not because of anybody's fault. It's a little bit of mostly human error. It's not like, someone lets the wire drop, although I've heard horror stories. But most things that I've seen, with even guys that have static between each other, guys that think like, like me in the beginning when I was on that movie Timeline, there was people coming up to me going like, "You're not a real stunt guy. You shouldn't be here. You're taking a real guy's job." But like what? You came out your mom, stuntman extraordinaire?
Yeah.
Everyone has to learn, right? So like, there's that thing, right? So, and if you played team sports, the rookie role. You're the rookie. They're going to shit on you. They're going to tell you you're shit. You're not supposed to be here. You gotta push through that. Like we're getting back to it. Everybody doesn't get a trophy. That's not fucking good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And sorry.
No worries. That's why it's not live.
Yeah. Not everybody gets a fucking trophy, and I think that's strong, man. That's good medicine. Not good that everybody gets a trophy. You're weakening everybody, man. I have a friend who has a karate school, and he's telling me like parents calling him up. My kid didn't pass. How come he didn't pass his belting? Because he didn't pass. Yeah, but I gotta deal with him crying at home. That's right. You deal with it. That's part of the growth process for your child.
How is anybody going to achieve anything of note or worth if they can't go through a little fucking bullshit?
Exactly. And like these are the things that make us strong. Is it easy? Does it suck? No, it's not easy. Does it suck? Yes. You know what I mean? But you got to get strong. You got to go through these things. So anyways, getting back to it, most people that have static, and I've seen static and I've experienced it myself. When it comes to doing a stunt, most of the people have such respect for the stunt or, the craft of being a stunt performer that they won't do stupid shit. They're there to be a pro. So even if they don't like you, they're still going to do their job and make sure that you're safe. Although I have heard horror stories, I've never witnessed it.
Thank God.
Yeah. So there's that. And going back to not really doing hairy stunts, but like I'll say one story about where I almost died. I was doing this French movie in Ile de Madeleine. I'm doubling an actor. Beautiful island, anyways. Ile de Madeleine. It's crazy. It's like a Caribbean island in the middle of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. And I'm supposed to be knocked out and thrown over the sailboat, and I'm tethered by a wire to the sailboat. I'm supposed to act like I'm knocked out, and then release with this little thing called the sea catch. Release this, and then float and grab what they call the mother's arm of the boat. It's a rope that they drag behind the sailboat in case anybody goes over, kind of like an insurance policy. And then pull myself up and jump on that back, the aft of the sailboat. So we're doing the test, and I'm like telling the guy, I'm like, man, I don't like this little wire. I think it's gonna. Oh, don't worry, we need to have you in case we don't want to lose you from the boat. And against my better judgment, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it. But it was really windy, so the boat was going about 8 knots, and if you know anything about sailing, that's pretty fast. So I go over, and I'm playing like I'm knocked out, and then I just feel the tug, and I'm being pulled face first into the wake of the sailboat.
Oh,
I
shit.
got bail right away. Like I'm like, okay, fuck this, not working. I'm out of here. It won't go. There's so much tension on the sea catch that pulling, it won't release. Water's going in. And I'm like, okay, I'm drowning right now. Don't panic. Keep trying. I'm drowning. Keep trying. And they had these 2 guys on Zodiacs, 2 different Zodiacs, safety, marine safety. They had their scuba diving masters and all this kind of stuff, and their marine safety. And I'm pulling, and I fucking can't get it, and I'm drowning. And I'm like, okay, don't panic. One more try, Kev, and hopefully they'll come get you or whatever. And I'm able to just pull, and it was a really, really thin wire. I'm able to pull this wire just to get enough, like, slack, and I pull, whoosh, and it releases, and I come up. The Zodiacs are like, bang, 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 come pick me up, hook me up, pull me in. Water's coming out of him up, fucking coming out of every hole in my head. And they're like, oh, I'm like, fuck that. That's it. I'm not doing. Okay, that's it. That's it for today. Because that scared the shit out of everybody, not only me, because I was under for way too long.
That's crazy.
So now we go back. We go back into port. We go into this little. There's only one little restaurant kind of / bar thing, and I'm sitting there, and like you hear talk about negative energy. You hear everybody in the production going like, "Is he going to be able to do it? I don't know. It's fucking dangerous." Like so you're getting all of that kind of vibes, negative vibes in your head and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I'm getting mad, and I'm going, you know what? I'm fucking doing this tomorrow. I'm going to prove everybody wrong tomorrow. Next day, and they didn't want to do it. I'm like, no. Tomorrow we're doing, and fuck no wire. I'm going over free, and I'm going to get to that rope. Yeah, you're never going to get the rope. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get the fucking rope. And I just finished working on this movie, Immortals. So this is like in 2010. I was in good shape. I was like 8% body fat, like 195 pounds. I hadn't been under 200 pounds since I was like 13 years old. Not that I was a fat kid, but I was just always like hefty. And I was in really good shape. I can do chin-ups forever. And I'd also blown out my knee on that movie. So I had like no ACL, no MCL at this time. I was waiting to get surgery. But I was, that anger log that you put on the fire, burns real bright and real hot sometimes,
Yeah.
So the next day we go out. It's just as windy. I go over, and I see that rope going over. I grab that rope and I pull, and I was mad. So I was pulling that rope so fucking hard. The wake supposedly off my forehead was like doing like a crazy rooster tail. I was like I was gonna get, and I get to the back of the boat, and I pull up. I let everybody's like smiling and laughing. I'm like, what? They're like, and the water off your forehead was like this big, like. So just prove I was able to do that. But it doesn't sound like a crazy stunt, right? It's not like I was flipping in the air 400 feet and doing all this stuff, but it was something, I wouldn't say simple, but basically shouldn't have been that dangerous, that got stupid dangerous for no reason. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that was probably one of my most hairiest kind of thing, and
it speaks to your character, man.
Yeah. So anyway, so unfortunately I have too much respect for the craft of a stuntman to say that I'm like stuntman extraordinaire. I'm not. I can do a lot of stuff. But there's probably more that I can't do that I can do. That's the truth. Um, so now I'm doing fight coordinating, and I'm turning into that kind of guy. And there's a whole bunch of new sex stuff that I have to learn. You know what I mean? And I'm learning. It's like a whole new start over. You know?
Right, but you're going to transfer over these experiences from from being in the field so long. So when you do these fight scenes and stuff like that, how much of your past experience, or like you say, these scenarios where simple things should not be this dangerous, how much of that affects on how you choreograph or you start going through that process for people who are going to be putting their body on the line?
Well, that's the thing. I've worked for some guys, and they just want to use you and lose you, man. They want to use you, abuse you, and make you hit the ground for no reason. They want to see, like, do it again, do it again, do it again. You're like, hey, the fucking camera's not even on, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do it because I said so, and all this kind of stuff. And there is a mentality there of training. Yeah, training. But there's also like, save it, because you're going to need to do it 10 times when the camera's on.
Mm.
And there's a difference of me making you do it for no, or asking you to do it just because I want to see it. And then, okay, now you're getting paid and you're on camera, you got to fucking produce. You know what I mean? Because now we need to get the shot. So that's where you have to suck it up. Yeah, well, I'm, yeah, well, I'm kind of hurt. Well, are you hurt or are you injured? You're injured, we got to replace you. You're hurt, rub some dirt on it and do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I asked that of myself. So I would ask that of another performer, and I would expect that from a professional stunt performer, to have that kind of grit, right? Because I think it's something that you need, especially when you're on $100 million show. There's 100 people standing around, and you got to do it. But I can't do it now. No, man. Now you have to do it because we're doing the shot now. And rehearsal is the time to say, I don't feel comfortable. I can't do this. I can't that. When it's go time and we're doing the shot, it's on the line now. Now it's, put up or shut up, man. You gotta be on the money.
So what are you doing right now to continue to learn and stay on top of this new role that you're coming into now with the choreographing? Like, what are you doing to kind of educate and see? Because like you say, I have no idea about it, but you're saying that there's so much to look at when doing this. What are you doing right now to kind of get that information and level up?
Well, I'm trying to become more technical. Camera, editing, all these other kind of aspects. There's a huge side of, when it comes like to the coordinating of stuff, a huge side of administration, insurance, all these kind of things that there's just like booking guys, finding, all this kind of administrations kind of stuff, which is not like coming in, hit the ground and have a fight and punch and get that adrenaline rush and like, yeah, woo, it's over. No, it's this kind of business aspect of it, right? And I like it. And I like it. It's probably not my strength, but I'm learning to love it more, and I'm getting better at it. But there's a whole technical side of camera stuff and all this kind of stuff that I'm kind of wrapping my head around. Because a lot of the fight stuff that I like to do are the stuff that I like to see. I do love fantasy fighting stuff, superhero shit, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, all that kind of stuff. But I like the real stuff. I like to try to bring a realism of like that experience when you were turtled, when you got jumped, that energy of fear, or that, the realism of violence, without getting too gratuitous, like, you know what I mean? Don't want to go like, but that energy of it. So you don't need to have a 20 move fight. You can have 2 or 3 real good moves with a good storytelling, and have that application in there of, of the danger of it, like too many knife things. I love knife stuff. Okay. Like a sword. I make swords. I make knives. I make aluminum trainers. I have a little forge that I'm going to start making some of my own knives and all that kind of stuff, just as a passion. But the knife, the story of a knife fight, and the violence and the danger, the reality of that stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard any Dog Brothers stuff, but like Mark Denny brought, I don't know if he does it still, but I haven't fought in like 4 years, 3 years. because I was always working on a show. Like, fortunate enough that I was busy working, but it still burned my ass that I didn't get a chance to participate in the gatherings. He used to bring a duotang with all of these like triage pictures of people being stabbed and what it looks like. And like, we train all this stuff, you know, like some of the Pakiti Tursa stuff gets pretty aggressive in a lot of the different things, you know. But then when you think about it, you're like, oh, like, you're not gonna do that over a parking spot.
No.
You know what I mean? You probably never will ever have to do that ever. You know what I mean? So we're training it for what reason now? It's that internal battle inside, right? But when you see what it looks like, too many movie stuff, you're seeing all this stuff, you're like, man, one little run through, that's heavy duty shit, man. That's some, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer fucking stuff that you're gonna see. And like, so getting back to some of this, if I would do knife stuff, I like to kind of have that aspect in it, right?
A bit more realistic.
The realism of it. Tell the real story of it. It's fucking scary shit, man.
So I got a question. So I want to seg this into, because for those who don't know you, that you're also a dog brother, and you know that in itself is a very it takes a set of balls, right? I mean, I've done beat the craps. I've fought a couple of guys, but it was never at a gathering. But I've fought. I've been privileged enough to have some dog brothers give me some education.
Yeah.
And but I tell you, it's a different thing. I personally love it because it's the one thing that you can kick, punch, grapple, but you also have the component of a weapon.
Yeah.
It's like fucking. It's like nothing else. I love it.
Yeah.
How much of your fighting, or we all remember certain moves that we pulled off on somebody, like that was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Get lucky.
How much of these experiences now are you actually interjecting into these choreographing? Because you have a lot to draw from.
A lot, as much as possible.
Yeah, that's
awesome. That energy of the dog brother thing. Look, have you ever done Pakiti Tursa or any kind of?
I've been training. I've trained with Renee. I've trained with Tyler.
Right. So like, there's fucking thousands of drills. Now, when you go and you step into the circle of the dog brother thing, you're fighting through an eye of a needle, and you got access to two moves. That's where it starts off in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
That's the kindergarten level, right?
Yeah.
And then slowly you start to see, and now you start, okay, I got to move here. I can do this here now. I can do, so, and this is all people that all have experience fighting and other stuff, right?
That's
so
right.
It's not that the drills don't work. Remember, is this a live drill? Remember, there was always those debates, and you'd see in the martial art magazine, is your drill a live drill? Because we get so used to our training partners that you can close your eyes and you can start doing all of this stuff with your eyes closed and your timing's real good. Change partner, and you're like, hey, where the fuck did the guy go? You know what I mean? Like, so it's not that drill's a bad drill. There's attributes, locked, within that drill that are valuable, but it's not sparring. No. It's like it's like I always try to say, like, is a screwdriver better than a hammer? No, they both have their value, right? So is Hubud no good? Hubud is a great exercise, man. It's a great drill, like, so is sparring. Sparring is a great tool too. You know what I mean? And you got to know how to do it. Going back to, like, are we preparing to go to UFC, or do we want to, like, go to work tomorrow and walk around a bit and not be too fucked up?
Yeah. But
still learn something. Okay, look, I'm going to punch you as fast as I can, as hard as I can, but I'm not going to go mental. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to try to get out of your way. You know what I mean? Like, so you can learn stuff. So what I try to do when I go to, like, the film fighting stuff is to take that energy from that dog brother stuff, of that realism, of these fancy moves and all this kind of shit. Man, sometimes they come out, but most of the time, they don't. And it's probably because we don't need to do it to live, right? If we were in a culture that we had to fight with a sword every day or else die, or, you know what I mean? I think the learning curve would be different. but we're all doing this as a recreational thing. It's a lifestyle, but it's still a recreational thing. If you go into the circle and you fight and you get hit in the shin and you get smashed in the face mask, you lost, but you still live. You know what I mean? And you gotta go. It's not life or death. So there's a kind of container that we're in, right?
I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It really does come down to just being conscious of why the fuck I'm doing this. What am I doing it for? What's my purpose? What's my goal? Once you understand that and you can admit that to yourself, I think you can extract the most out of your training. Because if I'm doing it for what? For self-defense, I want to have this kind of feedback. Am I doing it for sport? Am I doing it for fun? Am I doing it? Is it a combat sport? Am I doing it for expression? Yada, yada, yada. I think that's the problem. I think the problem is when people do certain things like live drills and and try to sell it as, well, I can fight because I can do this live drill really good. Like it's that honesty with yourself that's really going to allow you to understand what the fuck you're doing and what it's good for.
Right. And that goes all the way back to the beginning. Like I was saying, martial arts starts as a lie because we have to control it and start somewhere. But you're trying to get to that truth, right? You're trying to get to that truth of like, I'm 45. I weigh this much. I'm not as flexible as I used to be. You know what I mean? There's this reality of shit, We're trying to strive for that perfection, knowing that it's not achievable. But does that mean we quit halfway? No, you're on the road. You got to keep going, right? So getting back, actually, one of the things I really loved about the Dog Brothers stuff is because I extract from that personally, from my experience, what I call I hate this because everybody's rebranding shit. Everybody's always trying to brand stuff and reinvent shit that's already been around. You know what I mean? Just that's the culture we're in. People want to, get validated and get paid. But what I call RTT, real-time tactics, because full speed, unchoreographed moves, you start to see where you're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right away. And you're like, yeah, you can do all these disarms or you can do all these entries. What about when someone's whistling that stick at your head? You know what I mean? And the pucker factor is there, right? What do you have access to? So I like doing that because it's a great slap in the face for me, going like, whoo, okay, that worked. That really didn't work. I got to get better there. It's a great kind of litmus test to see where you're at. You know what I mean? And that's what I think you should. And that's what I like about the Dog Brothers thing is because you see at all these drills. Okay, so where you're at, what can you make work really in real time?
Yeah,
it's
just like sparring, right? Like you hit the bag, you hit the mitts, go spar. Can you land it? And
yeah,
I think that's what Dog Brothers has done for the weapons realm. But not even that. Like even a step further, it's like I remember I did the stick fighting and the knife. Actually, I did the knife first because I was worried. I was a crane operator. I was scared about getting my arms broken.
Okay.
Because I was the only one working, right? I had 2 kids. My second daughter, she was just born, so I was like, "Fuck, if I do this, my wife's gonna break the other arm." So, for a while, I was scared to do the full contact with the stick. But then I was like, I have to do it. So I did it, right? And I found like for the longest time when I was fighting, I was only worried about fucking the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, you start to like expand, and I was like, man, I can do better than this. When I started incorporating all my other skills, it's like it took its life of its own. Now all of a sudden I wasn't stick fighting; I was fighting with a stick in my hand.
That's right. That's nice. You said that well. That's great, dude. You're not stick fighting. You're fighting with a stick in your hand. Yeah, well said.
That was like the epiphany I had, and once I did that, it was like fuck. Now I was grappling, and then it was like we were doing fun shit. Now I go to my jiu-jitsu coach. I'm like, hey, because our henshi, he taught law enforcement. Like he was a cop, but he taught the cops, so he had access to like shock knives and shit. And so we were like, after class, the students would go home and we lock the door. I'm like, hey, henshi or Sifu or sensei, let's grapple with this knife now.
Yeah,
I want to do this thing called beat the crap, and this is something that's going to happen. So it was just like, through that, now I'm looking at arts I've already been doing in a whole different light.
Yeah.
It was just like, holy shit. Like you don't realize how dangerous a knife is until you start fucking grappling.
Hey man, a knife is dangerous in the hands of a 4-year-old.
Yeah, man. 100%.
And I was just having this conversation with 2 on Phil last week. And like, I all these knife things and disarms and all this kind of shit, fucking wonderful shit for movie stuff. Okay. Sometimes I feel like I just said it's too much and it gives like a kind of false, an illusion of what it, is. But if I teach it, and when I do teach it, I don't teach like knife defense. I like to use knife awareness, because the truth of it is, prepare to see blood, and it's probably going to be yours. Does that mean you stop and crying? No, please, no, stop. No, you got to fucking do something about that and make it stop. You know what I mean? And I'm going super extreme here. You know what I mean? But like, let's hope no one's ever in this situation. But if it does, you better recognize it and recognize it fast and do something about it fast. Like, hesitation at that point could be your life.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that was the reason why I wanted to do, get hit by a real stick, because fuck, man, how am I ever gonna know how that shot is gonna affect me or slow me down? Or what am I gonna do for real if somebody attacks me with a fucking stick? I do all this stick shit. Yeah. I've never fucking, I got the stick growing up from my mom, but this is different now. This is grown, right? But I had to know that, because I can't say to myself, my whole reason for doing martial arts is I want to make sure, yes, I can defend myself, but I want to make sure that if somebody ever fucks with my family, it's going to be a real fucking, they're going to have to work real fucking hard. You know what I mean? And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, it's like going back to like the way culture is now. Like, if we breed to be easy, give up, it's out of my comfort zone, I don't want to fucking do it, you're breeding a fucking generation of victims or prey.
But that's the thing. The new empowerment is victimization nowadays.
It's fucking stupid.
You know what I mean? And like, I try to be an understanding and accepting person. Okay, like this whole I don't even want to go there, dude. But like the whole left side of shit, and I'm not even right. I'm just like, I don't even know. I don't even know where to stand. But I know that I do stand. You know what I'm saying? And what I do stand for is, I respect. I had a neighbor. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick sidebar there. I'm going off on a tangent. I had a neighbor from World War II. Okay, Mr. Holloway in Verdun. My dad used to cut his grass, and as I got older, I used to go and cut his grass. And he used to tell me stories when I was like 12, 11, 12 years old, going like taking the snow off his like stairs or cutting his grass or whatever. Telling me stories about going over against the Nazis and this and all that kind of shit. And like, he was perfectly, and then he came back and was a normal guy. You know what I mean? Was in this situation of all this crazy shit, and then comes back and he's Johnny Q citizen, lawn, grass, work, wife, kids, productive member of society. But he told me, he was like, we went over there, and he goes, I don't agree with the Nazis and I don't agree with that, all that, but we went over there to fight for their right to say that shit. And it blew my mind as a kid when he was saying that shit to me, because I was like, fuck it, you must hate the Nazis. I can't even really remember, but I remember asking him something like, you must hate the Nazis and this and that. That's why you did that. And he's like, no, I didn't do that because we hated them. We went over there to stop them so that people can have the right to do shit like that. And that blew my fucking mind as a kid. And I think only in the last couple of years, I really understood what that truly means on it. Not just the definition and understanding the words that he's saying, but understanding the value of what that means as a human being. You know what I mean? To have the right. You say fucked up shit to me, but I have, I'm going to defend the right for you to say it, because that's what a fucking free society or democratic society or whatever you want to call it, maybe that's just the right way to be as a human being. That's what really respect to someone is. I don't agree with you, and what you're saying is fucked up. As long as you're not coming over and trying to bust down my door and fuck up my kids and hurt my family or do whatever, and you keep that shit inside your house, and it's not really hateful, it's just an idea that I don't agree with, I have to go, look, man, that's what you think. It's like hearing a bad song on the radio. Turn the radio off, change the channel.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to listen to it. That's what this whole...
And I think too is this, not only that, I don't have to listen to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be my enemy.
That's what that thing is. That's what respect of differences is. And I don't think we have that anymore. And I think with this whole Facebook stuff and all these platforms and
Yeah,
thing. I don't even know what to call it anymore because it's morphing daily.
it's cancer.
You know what I mean? And it's this narcissistic instant gratification. How many likes? How many? All of this fucking. I don't even have an Instagram account. I don't have a tweet. I don't. I don't do that stuff. And I'm trying to get off Facebook, but my wife won't let me because it's good for business and it's good for this. And there's great things about Facebook. That friend that you haven't talked to in 20 years, and he puts a picture and you see him, and you're like, "Oh man, happy birthday! How's it going, bro?"
Yeah,
That's some good shit. Having a platform that you think you should get to say whatever you want and everyone cares, that's maybe less good. You know what I mean?
100%. So, what three people, role models in your life, kind of molded you? Can you attribute to who you are today? And the reason why I say this is because I want to kind of like compare it for anybody younger listening to this.
Mm.
Who the fuck are your morals today? Who are their role models today? And how do they contrast to, someone more so towards our generation, what we look for in a role model?
Yeah, I saw that question and I really asked myself. It's easy because you want to say famous people, right? You want to say people that everybody knows and this and that. But I think the more powerful and the more valuable thing is, it's the people that I actually met and knew in my life.
100%.
It's easy to say, yeah, Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of these famous, iconic entertainment athletes, whatever, that you never met. You don't know them personally, but the people that I say that, I would say, my parents, first of all, just because I think that gives me a certain kind of, and my parents, they're young parents. They made a lot of mistakes. They did a lot of good stuff, but they made a lot of mistakes too. But that was probably a good thing. And, in the big picture. And then there's been a couple teachers I've had through school. I met a couple of guys just as I was dropping out of college, because that's what happened. I dropped out of college because I ended up getting to an argument with my football coach and quitting football and quitting college, and then found martial arts. And I became friends with these teachers, these college teachers, after I dropped out. And it was really weird because me as a student, I always felt like teachers and students, two different teams. They're not on my side,
It's weird how it's always that.
Yeah. And then when I got out of school, I saw saw behind the curtain, and I was like, oh shit, they're real people. And that's when I actually started to learn a lot from them. And I realized that I love to learn. And then my brain really opened up as a sponge. And that probably really was that probably helped me really get into the martial art thing, because now I was like in awesome shape, and I was like, 20, and, I needed to do something, and martial arts was a thing for me. Right. So there was two teachers that I met, Ian MacArthur and Guy Quinn, who were two college guys, teachers that helped me kind of see the world in a different way. Right. And then Phil Chelina, he's been even though there'd be times when I've been at the school and then I'm not at the school and then I'm not, I've never felt like I left. And it was funny, I was talking to him about that last week, and he's like, yeah, well, everything I've done there, I've always taken, internalized, and used in my life. And I've actually, in some weird way, was able to make some of my dreams come true with it. I took the Jukundo, took the Kali, took the Kaju, took all that kind of stuff, and then went and did stunts with it. You know what I mean? And made a career with some success for 20 years. You know what I mean? And I don't think my career is over yet. I think I'm at a stage where I gotta really evolve to the next level. So Phil would be a huge thing. And then there's been a couple of stunt coordinators that have helped me out too. Like there's one guy, Mark Desordi. He gave me my first credit, and he was the guy who hired me 4 or 5 years ago to really become a stunt coordinator or fight coordinator with him, and working on $100 million movies together. And that's an opportunity that I probably never would have got without him, because no one's going to give you $100 million opportunity if you don't already have that kind of pedigree. You got to get vouched for. You got to get vetted by somebody to say, yeah, him. No one's going to give a stranger a $50 million, show or TV show to do.
Unless they believe in him.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be vouched for, man. So there is that, and I take inspiration from really weird places sometimes. A student that I just trains with me one time, and I see him do something, I'm like, fuck, that's cool, man. Like that person does something that I had trouble doing, and they're doing it right away. You know what I mean? Like, all the new stunt guys that are coming up, I see how good they are, and I'm like, man, I suck. You know what I mean? Like, and that's inspirational, dude. You know what I mean? Am I going to go in the corner and cry, be like, well, I might as well stop now? No, it's inspiring. You got to get, you know what I mean? Like,
iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So, yeah, but that's a hard question, really. You know what I mean? Like,
but even if I see you draw from a lot of people, but maybe you're looking at more to like the nucleus. What is that one thing that all these people have in common? What is that character trait that makes somebody say, this is a role model I want to follow? Because whether you say Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, your dad, the other person, it is a specific character trait.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things like, to be honest with themselves and to be vulnerable, to show me vulnerability. It's a weird thing, but I never really thought about it, but it just kind of
you have to be
exactly. And that's what this whole thing, it's so weird. It's like the whole world is like a paradox. You want to be strong, be weak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that what did they say? I think it's a Navy SEAL thing, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You know what I mean? So it's like, so those people showed me vulnerability, which gave me to okay, so I'm not so fucked up. I can do stuff. I can, you know what I mean? So, and that's going back to making mistakes. Everybody always thinks perfect means no mistakes. Yeah. It's mistakes that make it perfect, man.
Yeah.
So all those people, I guess all those people have that quality. They've all given me a chance. And that was something that I think inspired me, Yeah,
100%. I think just the fact that if any group of people, like, because you can find these kinds of traits and friendships in any world you're in, whether it be acting, music, football, martial arts, it's just the ability to just fucking go through growing pains, go through shit with somebody else, and because, like you say, vulnerability is important, because for you to be vulnerable in front of somebody, you have to be strong within yourself and know yourself. And number two, you have to have trust for those people you're being vulnerable in front of, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like everybody's trying to create an image of something, but nobody's celebrating what we are from birth. It's just fucking human being.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a big part of where we're at. That being said, what is something that you would consider to be the most misunderstood thing about you? Whether as a martial artist, as a person, it doesn't matter, but what do you feel is the most misunderstood thing about you?
Super hard to answer. I don't know, man. Perceptions. Sometimes what I perceive to be people's perceptions, right? Like, I'm a super shy person, man. When I'm in a place, I'm standing there, and I sometimes have the face that I look like I could be someone or whatever. But I'm fucking shy inside. I just want someone to come say hi, and then I open up and I'm a blabbermouth. You know what I mean? Like, and people are like, oh, you standoffish, or they think maybe because I'm really passionate about martial arts, especially when I was younger, I'm like kind of a martial art geek. Like, I don't know if you know about like hopology, the study of combat methods, and you check it out.
Yes.
Right. So I'm like an amateur of that. I try to go into that whole kind of zone. So I can maybe sound like I think I know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm just being passionate and maybe, talking too much. I don't know. And I think in the past that's maybe rubbed people the wrong way. And I think sometimes I have this insecurity, like I think I'm shit all the time. You know what I mean? Like I have this insecurity that I think I suck, and because of that, I think I get that vibe where people maybe think like I'm an imposter or something, but it's just because I don't have. It's one of the things why I do martial arts, probably because I don't have that confidence. So I'm trying to find it still. You know what I mean?
I can relate.
You know what I mean? And I have people like Tuhan Phil was like saying, okay, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but he was basically saying, yeah, you should teach and you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, really, you think I'm good enough? And he's like, I hate getting compliments. It sucks to say, but I work pretty good on negative energy. Tell me I ain't going to do it, I'm going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? Tell me I can, I'm probably going to think you're up to something and you don't mean it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's my bag, though. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the misperception. Maybe that comes off like I'm cocky. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Go. I just want to touch on this before I wrap it up because I think that's important because I do identify with that. I am my worst enemy. My wife is always like, "You got to fucking lighten up. You got to stop." You know, but it's what drives me. It's what drives me, and that could stem back to fucking early. You know, like I have a trust issue, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's like I have this perception of who I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm always chasing somebody I'm probably never going to be, but I'd rather pursue that than just be happy and like think I'm, you know, this or that, but it's not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but the problem is that there's a balance here because when people start thinking like that, sometimes those people shut down and they stop trying. And I've seen this happen with really good friends of mine who I think are brilliant people.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone younger who thinks like that to not have that inhibit their progress?
Okay, so whether you work with positive energy or negative energy, because we all work with one or the other, don't shut down, like you said. Don't listen. You know, I'm on the road where everyone's telling me no right now, and whenever I'm on the road and everyone tells me no, sorry, it's my dog.
Oh, no worries, man.
I know I'm on the right road. If everyone's telling me no, I know I'm in the right place because that's where I got to go. But that's how I function. So if someone's telling, you know, if people are trying to put blocks and telling you to stop, you got to persevere. And one of the biggest things I would ask someone, or if they want to know what they want to be or what they, you know, what should they do with their life? Because we all have a calling. Ask yourself inside. Take the time every night before you go to bed. And I'm not talking about religious praying or any of that kind of stuff. It is a kind of a form of meditation, but ask that question. It may come in one night. It may take a year, but ask yourself that question. What do I want to do? What do I want? Who am I? You know, some people are really intuitive. They got that thing right. I was lucky. I knew at 20. I have friends that are 40 and they're not sure yet. So I've been lucky with that, but ask yourself, the answer is inside. You know what it is. You just got to give yourself the chance to answer it and listen when it comes to you. You know, and the biggest thing is having a support system around you. Good friends, good family. My wife, like you were saying too, my wife kind of beats me up because she thinks I'm awesome. And she's a school teacher and she tells all her students, oh, my husband this and that. I'm like, don't say that shit to people, man. Like, because it's a kind of a lot to live up to in a kind of way. And then I also know, like, man, you know, it could be that whole working in the film industry could be really kind of, oh, wow, you get to work with people, but you don't realize a stunt performer, you're camera fodder, man. Most of the time you're in the background or you're lucky enough you get punched or kicked by one of the actors, you know, and like it's not about you're helping tell the story. So stunt performers are really those unsung heroes of the film industry. And they need a lot of credit. And my wife too, she supports me and keeps me on track and keeps me honest with a lot of different things too, and make sure that I don't go into that negative zone, because it's easy to go in there, you know, that's it, the whole world's against me, I'm gonna fucking take them all on, I'm gonna, you know, but sometimes it's not that bad. It's great that you got that you know, it's great that you want to go there, but it ain't that bad, you know what I mean? And You got to take it one step at a time and one little battle at a time. That's that's that old adage. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
That's it, brother. That's it, man.
That being said, I'm going to wrap it up. Kevin, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you. You're a cool cat. I hope I get to see you and train with you in the near future.
Yep.
Renee's told me some cool stuff about you, man, and I look forward to seeing you in person. Thank you
All
so
the
much,
best.
Parley, man. Thank you.